Hello, everyone, and welcome. In this recording, I'm going to be speaking about this upcoming new moon that we have in the sign of Leo on the 16th of August 2023. Now, I do sense that this is going to be quite an intense and powerful energy that will also manifest quite significantly on the world stage. Well, this is because, first of all, Leo is the sign of VIPs, royalties, nobility, very important people, and also people who do influence us, the collective, quite a lot because it is the sign of self expression. And one of the main aspects that this new moon holds is to the degree exact square with Uranus. And Uranus does bring, whenever it converses in a significant way, a lot of epiphanies, surprises, shocks, but it can also be the energy of uprising, eruption, rebellion. And speaking about eruption, because Uranus is in the earth sign of Taurus, which among so very many other things also rules the crust of the earth, we can expect either some seismic activity or, new moon in Leo. The Leo is ruled by the sun, so it is very combust. Some kind of combustion, explosion, the element of fire or heat suddenly erupting one way or another. But of course, both the sun and moon conjunct at the time of the new moon are gonna speak in a conversation of harmony, a trine with dwarf planet Aries, goddess of discord, rebellion, uprising, in the very individualistic and sovereign sign of Aries. So this will represent, especially collectively speaking, an expression where either a group of people or someone inspiring people to, express their sovereignty, to rebel, to strike against something, to uprise against something, or, anything that has to do with the individual, the rights of the individual, the needs of the individual, the respect of the individual is going to be greatly highlighted. And this will be a main theme that will play out on the world stage. But of course, there is much more to it than this. So let's get, first of all, analyzing the main aspects. And I would like to, share my screen if I kind of figure out how to do it. So I hope that you guys can see my screen at this time. So this is how the new moon looks like, astrologically speaking. We have the conjunction of the sun and moon, and we can see the square with Uranus, both of them being at 23 degrees of their respective signs. So this is quite precise. This is quite exact. So I do believe that Uranus is going to strongly influence this energy with some kind of outburst. And, especially individually, this Uranus can be an epiphany. This Uranus can represent a moment of sudden realization. This Uranus can represent some kind of big truth that needs to be, present, that you do need to become aware of, or you do need to, this can also represent like a reality check where you do need to take that reality into consideration. Because, of course, the new moon also represents the creative qualities of this lunation, where, like with every single new moon, the seed of intention that gets into the universe, willingly or unwillingly, sometimes with Uranus, there can be that factor of accident, of unwillingly. It is truth, but maybe it is expressed in a way that is outside our control. But anyway, the seed of intention will be there and it will be growing. And other specifics about this new moon, well, first of all, it is conjunct with Black Moon Lilith, and the conjunction is also very tight. Now, Black Moon Lilith is the primordial feminine. It is very similar in its expression with Aries. It is rebellious. It doesn't take any prisoners. It is very, very self-centered because it identifies the self as the primary component, as basically the building block of everything in life. So it is very, very feisty. It fights, it demands, it is very, very active. So its conjunction with Uranus makes it that much more expressive. You know, Black Moon Lilith can also be seen as the primordial, instinct, as that part of our unconscious, which is very, very, you know, individualistic. It is very alive. It is very active. It does steer the harmony of our beings in certain ways. For example, sexually, sensually, wants, needs, and basic survival, basic needs, etc. And in the sign of Leo, it is very emotional. But when I say emotional, this is a fire sign emotion. It is not like the water energy where the feelings, and the flow of feelings and what we perceive. This is where it's very fiery energy. So it is whatever sparks up within our hearts of hearts, whatever fire, willpower combined with want and desire power, whatever energies there are there, it will spark up that type of emotion. But ultimately, that is also a feeling, that is also an emotion, that is also, in between reality and not so much. To which degree is an emotion real in a physical sense? So this is why I am using the term feelings, but it can be quite significant because it will definitely guide us to certain options, choices, actions, reactions, some of which may be legally binding later on in the future. Why legally binding? Well, because the South Node is in the sign of Libra, and Libra is the sign of the law, along with Sagittarius energy. But when something important happens in Libra, in the lives of, for example, collectively, a nation, a group of people, or individually, it can play out as a legally binding choice decision in one direction or another. Now, another specific to this energy is that the new moon is also conjunct Venus. The conjunction to Venus is not very tight because Venus is at 18 degrees of the sign of Leo, but it's still an ongoing conjunction. And it is also this is part of the larger Venus retrograde season because Venus is retrograde. So it's all about what we want, what we need, what we desire. And the new moon, how do we create it? How do we get it? How do we express it? How do we go after it? Because, it's all about our feelings. It's all about the truth that is within our heart of heart. It will also be very powerful creative energy. But with Black Moon Lilith, this creative energy within us, within our hearts, or wherever this new moon is falling in your personal chart, it's primordial. It might not have been able to be expressed in the past Venus retrograde. And maybe this is where the divine timing and the other larger celestial setups are telling us, square with Uranus, that it is now when the time is right for that primordial creative energy within us to take a shape and form, but that shape and form has to, without a shadow of a doubt, respect our own individual authenticity, our truth, what life, what value, what self-worth, what anything basically means to us personally. And this is where this Venus is squaring Uranus, but the square is not very exact, but it's also squaring a Jupiter. And neither is the square with Jupiter exact, but it is going to become exact a few days after this new moon, because Venus will retrograde back to that 15, 14 degrees of Leo, where the square with Jupiter will be exact. Now, Jupiter is all about, again, truth, but our own subjective truth. how we feel about it, how we understand it, and how the understanding is integrated in our lives. Long story short, how we embody our truth, our worth, our value, all that has to do with that, because it's in the sign of Taurus. While Uranus is a different kind of truth. It is an awareness of something very objective, something very real life that is in our lives already. Or it might be an inner energy, and because Uranus many times has to do with higher intelligence, what it is that we can do, what it is that we can accomplish with our intellect, with the superiority of the mind over matter, especially in Taurus. And this is one of the reasons why Uranus, large technology, internet, artificial intelligence, anything that has to do with, technological progress on a larger scale. But, personally, it can rule the biggest truth in our lives that are very much objective. Objective because they might come collectively, our relations with the collective, our relations with physical reality, our relations with other people, because Uranus is ultimately the ruler of Aquarius. So, it can take the expression of Aquarius. So basically, us and others, us and the world, us and the whole human collective. So whatever the human collective, whatever outer reality projects onto us, that's also very, very important. So again, this new moon is reality check. And a reality check of two different natures. The subjective Jupiterian nature, because that Venus is squaring Jupiter. So whatever we think, whatever we believe, whatever we basically know, but that knowledge is like Sagittarian knowledge, not necessarily down to earth facts. And then comes Uranus with the down to earth, the objective awareness. So this new moon is incredibly creative. It's a very powerful creational force because of that conjunction with Black Moon Lilith. So this is why for us to embody and to be in tune with our authenticity, with our truth, with our most deepest knowledge of the self and every Taurian matter in our lives is very, very important, because we don't want this energy, especially under Venus retrograde. And we can also add Mercury retrograde, even though Mercury is just in shadow, it hasn't retrograded yet at the moment of this new moon. So these elements are very, very important because we don't want to get it wrong. We don't want to give into an illusion, an impression, or basically how our feelings, the fire within our hearts is rebelling, It's very, very rebellious because, as I said, this new moon and with Black Moon Lilith holds a trine with Aries, goddess of discord. Now, let me just add the asteroids and the planetoids so you can see Aries here. Aries trines this new moon. So it's really, really self-centered, But when I say self-centered, it's not really in a bad sense, as in, of course, this is how some expressions of this energy can use the square with Jupiter and Uranus in the bad sense, where it's egoistic, self-centered. It's like an ego storm. It's like a storm of why aren't I getting what I want? Why not me? Comparing yourself to others, you're a square with Uranus. Like this person, this group, that group has it this way. Why aren't I having the same results in my life, for example? So it can really go off if we're not careful, because this trine with Aries gives us that impulse. It gives us the strong flame, the fire, the momentum, the self-righteousness, and the support of the self. And it can also represent like very, very strong survival energy, survival mode. And, there are moments, there are situations and cases when that is exactly needed for a big breakthrough. But there are situations when that is the least, the last thing that we should do, because it will lead to, some kind of excessive expression that is not going to do anyone any good. For example, I don't want to sound too, fatalistic, but for in the lives of some people or in some situations, this will represent a fight, a conflict, a confrontation, where two fires, confront each other's. Because Aries makes it very, very rebellious. Aries is also conjunct with the North Node in the fire sign of Aries. That's also fighting for your right, fighting for your truth, fighting for your survival, fighting for your direction and for what you want, what you will. Because this energy very much focuses on what you want, but it also advises you and invites you to really, really, really distill what you want. So it's not egoistic, it's not selfish, it's not self serving. It can be self serving if it's, your basic needs. But if it's self-serving for exactly the darkest expressions of Leo, the strong self-indulgence, narcissistic tendencies, where we are the center of the universe and no one and nothing else matters. In this sense, it is bad, But in the sense of big breakthrough, Venus retrograde, we must not forget the retrogrades and so very many other outer planets are retrograde. Pluto, Saturn, Neptune. Jupiter will follow with Uranus after this. If I'm not mistaken, Aries is also retrograde. So this can mean the past. As I said, maybe there was a strong creative, creational energy within you, or this can be for you to express your truth, a talent, to make a choice, to take a risk, to take a leap of faith, to move forward quite starkly in one area of life or with something. So this is where this energy might have been part of the past. A lot of trial and error, a lot of trying or finding your truth, finding your authenticity, finding your right balance. So all of these things might have prevented this energy from being expressed in the past. But now this new moon can represent the breakthrough moment when everything aligns and Uranus provides the momentum, Uranus provides the truth, and there it is, it happens. But of course, do not expect something instantaneous. Even though with Uranus in the picture, for some people and collectively out there, I do imagine it is instant. But we must also take into consideration that many times the new moon does require more than, more weeks or even months. The range of influences from the moment it happens to 6 months later on. But with Uranus in the picture, as I said, there are also elements there which are instant. For example, an offer, a contract, a communication, your own epiphany, your own plan, your own idea to get there. Now, also with this new moon, for some people, it can represent as an offer, as an opportunity for an investment, to buy something, to invest money in, something that you really need or want or desire or delights you. And that offer might be way too good to be true, or it might be, a bit pricey, but due to negotiation. So this is where the retrogrades do invite you to take it into consideration, to proceed with questions, negotiations, contact, communication, but don't, necessarily take any action immediately. Usually it would be advised for us to wait until this Venus retrograde is at least over. So when Venus stops moving backwards, so that's either the 3rd or 6th of September, something like that. Ideally, if it's possible for Venus to start progressing forward, the most ideal situation if we have time for Venus to actually leave shadow. But this is where your own setup, your own individual energies will determine the right timing. And we must also take into consideration that Mercury will go retrograde soon. So, this is where Mercury in the sign of Virgo, the fine details, the nitty gritty, the technicality, the dates, the times, the setup, when, how, in which manner, perhaps the opinion of a consultant, an expert, someone who is very knowledgeable. So take all of these into consideration, that whatever might manifest on the day or very soon after this new moon is just the initiation. It is just the invitation. If it's something Taurian in your life that will manifest, it can also be something to do with, love, relationships. Do I love a person? Am I satisfied? Am I fulfilled by this relationship? Because your heart, Venus, in the sign of Leo retrograde, tells you one thing. It tells you perhaps many things, but it's under a certain lens. And Uranus comes with the awareness. Uranus can act as a confirmation. Then later on, Jupiter can act as a different kind of confirmation. But whatever truth is crystallizing in your heart, again, I say, don't take any radical action. Wait until the retrogrades are over, because that's when you can truly process it. You can truly feel it through Venus and think it through Mercury. Because, a relationship, for example, a love story, a relationship, a marriage, a partnership, an alliance may look in a certain way emotionally, but with Mercury, for example, in the picture, if you analyze all the benefits you get from it, now that's where we need to, South Node in Libra, weigh it righteously. There is the inconveniences or whatever your heart is telling you. For example, that you're bored, that you are not all that much passionate as you were, but you also need to analyze the more real, the practical elements of it. The earth energy, Taurus and Virgo. And the earth energy might tell you all the benefits that you get in an earthly way from an alliance relationship, or again, with Leo energy, this can also be a job, a career, a hobby, something deeply personal with the self or self-expression. Who am I? Maybe not necessarily who am I right now, but who am I becoming? Who am I growing into? Who am I evolving into? Or for some people, this is where who am I that is very clear, but how am I going to express who I am in a way where it gets me somewhere? You know what I mean? So all of these themes of self-expression, self-knowledge, the truth of the heart, creativity, for some people, even children, are going to be themes that are highlighted at this time. Now, this conjunction of the sun and moon also trines the north node in the sign of Aries. So this is a very important aspect, because Aries is the sign of the first breath. This, highlights the creational element that much more. That north node is conjunct Aries. So the need for breakthrough, righteousness, justice, sovereignty, to be at least, equally kind to the self as you are to others or any other energy in your life is very important. And the creational element of the new moon. So two creational energies joining together, strong fire energy. So something is definitely going to be born in your heart of hearts. But, a square is still a square. It can be quite hard to look at, quite hard to process, quite hard to accept. Because, with Pluto also in the picture, Pluto squaring Aries, Pluto squaring the north node and the south node, for some people, the truth is that I need to terminate something. I need to shift out of something. I need to do things radically Uranus differently in my life. And that means that the way I'm doing it right now has to end. And that's hard. Because what has to end? For example, it can be, as I said, all love. But where the love transforms into some kind of other love, very hard. Or the love in the full package just ends. the relationship ends. Something that you used to do continuously ends. A career ends, a job ends, a living situation ends. Something that you believed about yourself ends and transforms. A way of expressing your values, your self-worth, anything Taurian ends and becomes something else. So this energy can be quite hard. It can be quite, shocking Uranian. That is why we need some time to process it. While for other people, this can be hard in a different sense. The job, an unexpected job offer, which is a little bit, let's say, too much for you, or this is the feeling, this is the sensation. But if you think about it deeply, you will come to the realization, Uranus again, that actually it's not too much. You kind of have what it takes. It's just emotionally a bit soliciting, or it might take a moment, a leap of faith, a bravery, or for you to actually show the world, the job, the boss, others, clients, that you do believe in yourself, that your life experience did do a lot of, how should I even express this, crystallization for you, that you can embody it. So it might take a boost of confidence. Or for other people, they know that they're super good at something, they have everything that they need, but this new moon conjunct black moon Lilith, the challenge for them is to not show it. The challenge for them is to be humble, is to be gentle, is to be kind, is to put the other person before yourself in the spotlight, for example. Especially someone changes their career to become a teacher, the same domain, but instead of doing the job, the activity, whatever, yourself, you step back and become a teacher. So someone who teaches the professionals, that is the same thing, the same love, the same passion, the same life experience, the same fortitude, but the modus operandi and what you actually do with it is radically different. And it will require you to reformat yourself psychologically in so very many ways, because the teacher needs to be the gentle expression. The teacher always needs to put the student before themselves. The teacher always has to show the personal example, but in a non-selfish, non-boasting, how should I even say, non-proud way, if that even makes sense. Not to eclipse the student, not to intimidate them. But at the same time, for some professionals who had to be kind and compassionate all day, every day, for example, customer service agent, and if they become a trainer, a teacher, then they have to be severe with the students. Again, a radical change. And I'm so sorry to take up your time with these examples, but astrology can only be understood and learned in an exemplary way. Now, let me look at my notes if there is anything. Oh, yes. So another distinctiveness of this new moon is that it holds a sextile, so a conversation of harmony, but which does require some kind of effort, some kind of energy, some kind of action with Vesta from the sign of Gemini. Loving Vesta is the goddess of the sacred flame, a power player which is associated with protection, with nurture, not nurture like Ceres, but like soul nurture. Keeps the inner fire burning, keeps the inner fire stable, not chaotic. So neither does it allow it to turn into an inferno burning everything, but neither just a tiny spark which doesn't do much. So a sextile with Vesta is exactly what I said. What it is that you can do with this new moon. There is that part which is the self, that's very obvious, the creational part, or the self-realizing part. But this sextile with Vesta, what do you do in relations with others? Loving words, loving expression, loving communication, sharing your energy with others, everything that has to do basically with the sign of Gemini. And also this sextile with Gemini can represent the positive communication that might enter your life, or the support, the help, the encouragement of siblings, cousins, neighbors, the others. Or it can also represent that your mental ingenuity, your mental playfulness can get you a long, long way. And now I'm going to speak about other energies which are not connected directly with this new moon, but will really shape and form the energy, because other aspects in the sky are always very important when we have a new moon, because the new moon bursts something new. So you know what I mean. Everything else that is in the sky is also important. So one of the highlights at this new moon is the Virgo uh, stellium. Can we call it a stellium? Because the other two uh, planets, planetoids, asteroids, as I said, are minor power players. But anyway, we have Mercury in shadow at 19 degrees of Virgo. So that means it holds a trine with both Jupiter and Uranus, but these trines are not yet exact. And the good news is that Mercury will rehold these trines as it will go retrograde. If I'm not mistaken, it goes retrograde under a Uranus trine and a Pluto trine. So that's quite positive. That's quite promising. Because Mercury, as I said, is in shadow. So it is bringing to the surface the main themes of this Mercury retrograde season. I know it is in Virgo, so it can be quite disruptive because Mercury rules Virgo, and Virgo is the nitty-gritty. Virgo is the technicality. Virgo is everything that has to make our life and some parts of our life be like clockwork, if you know what I mean. So the retrograde is gonna represent the disruption, the blockages, etc. Yet these blockages will find very quick solutions to them. And these blockages are raising issues from the past that can finally find a solution. This is the trine with Jupiter. So everything that has to do with justice, legal stuff, uh, and your personal belief, your personal acceptation of what justice means for you, this can be part of the picture. And with Uranus, a reality check, but the positive kind, because Mercury is the lower octave of Uranus. So everything that has to do with reality in your life, material reality. When I say material, it's not just money and financial stuff, but it's also what you can do, what value you hold. And that comes in your life as a blessing. But this Mercury is conjunct Pallas Athena, another very cerebral, intelligent energy, goddess of wisdom, goddess of tactics, god. Whenever we see Pallas Athena, it's almost like a game of chess. How do you go about it? How do you go about your next moves, your path towards victory, or not to lose as shamefully, if you know what I mean? So that is Pallas Athena. Sometimes it is the tactics, the application of wisdom. Other times it's sheer force, because she has similar qualities to both Mercury, but also Mars. So strong force getting you there. Or in the sign of Virgo, the tactics needs to be followed on with ambition, because repetition or being persistent gets you there. A trine with both Jupiter and, well, actually, I'm gonna exclude the trine with Uranus, because Pallas Athena has to uh, progress much more for her trine with Uranus to be exact. So let's just keep Jupiter. And Pallas Athena, especially in mythology, does have a very special relation with Jupiter, because she was born from Jupiter's head. So again, this is a real blessing, because tactics, wisdom, and everything that you have done in the past, because conjunct Mercury in shadow, uh, is working. It is entering your life as a solution. It is getting you there, either as a methodology, what it is that you need to do, or help from others, from For example, collective legislation. There it is getting things done. Now, the other power player, which is also conjunct Mercury, not very exactly, but still a valid conjunction, Mars, the planet of action. Mars in the sign of Virgo, to do it, to finally go and do it, to apply the tactics, the wisdom, the know-how, the knowledge, the mastery, to go and do it and apply it with patience, with meticulosity, with the highest standards, and in a discerning and sometimes discriminatory way. And when I say discriminatory, with under a trine especially, it doesn't mean the negative expression of that. But Mars very soon will also hold a trine with Pluto. And Mars is the lower octave of Pluto. So that is quite empowering energy, very, very powerful. It does represent a strong momentum, especially later on when this will become a grand Earth trine. Not exact, but it will be very operational. One of the highlights of this period, of this August. But this trine under the larger Uranus transit will retake its position, because you can imagine that when Uranus will move into the sign of Gemini, Pluto will be in the sign of Aquarius, so that's an air trine. But right now, under this configuration, it's an Earth trine, and a grand Earth trine, because Mars completes it with its own trine with Uranus, which is quite exact at the time of this new moon. Mars at 22 degrees, Uranus at 23 degrees. That's quite powerful. The breakthrough, the epiphany, the realization, the whatever it is that we are doing, it's working. It's getting us there. It might not be necessarily immediate, or maybe just the offer, the start of it is immediate, but the rest of the process will take some time. But the trine with Pluto, both with Uranus and Mars, that is like a great power and a fated feeling, and the feeling of breakthrough, because Pluto is the planet of power. Sometimes it's big money. Other times is that authorities, institutions, organizations, that kind of top-down power is supporting you, or it is listening, it is executing, it comes to your help. Maybe because there was something in courts of justice, a legal ruling that makes that authority, institution, organization support you or solve certain things, problems for you. But moving on, this is where another energy, Juno. So Juno is here. Juno is the asteroid which governs partnerships. She is a bit opposing this Pluto, but she's already moving out of the opposition because she's freshly entered the sign of Leo. So, if you look at the details, Leo has Black Moon Lilith, Sun Moon at the time of this new moon, Venus retrograde, dwarf planet Varuna, which has to do with divine justice, divine equilibrium of creation, of different elements complementing each other and not turning into chaos. And it also rules waters, and asteroid Juno. So this is quite a powerful emphasis on Leo energy, the heart, the child, and everything that has to do with self-expression. And on the world stage, as I said, it's politicians, it's VIPs, it's stars, it's world leaders. What are they going to communicate? What are they going to share? What are they going to project onto all of us out there? We shall see. But one thing is certain, it's also rebellious. It's also, as a result of strong protests and people exerting their sovereign wills. And another energy which I would like to focus on just solo, this Black Moon Lilith trining Aries, because this is what is telling us that the heart, the truth of the heart is erupting. It is bursting. And this is where we can no longer either individually or collectively, drown or suppress our own truth, because it will come out. It is not going anywhere. It will very, very, very strongly persist. Now, later on, this Black Moon Lilith will trine the galactic center, being at 27 degrees of Aquarius. Actually, we can call it a trine even like this. It can also be a grand fire trine, because that Sun and Moon and Lilith in the sign of Leo, galactic center in Sagittarius, and the North Node in the sign of Aries. So if we include the galactic center, we also have a grand fire trine with the galactic center. So that's exactly the divine will. This is where we have this chapter, this karmic chapter unfolding, where the divine says, well, it's time for your will, the will of the collective and the will of the individual. This is where the divine is not coming with its very own will, with its recommendation, with its wisdom. No, it's saying, I will allow what you want as long as you express what you want and take some action. So you can imagine what a truly powerful time we have collectively, because this is where we are determining our collective fate. Maybe just for the next 18 months, 18 years, because that is when the North Node will return into Aries, Libra, North Node, South Node into Aries, Libra axis. So it's quite significant what it is that we do at this time. So applying every ounce of wisdom and life experience and lucid thinking that we have is so important here, and that our own sovereign wills are aligned with, justice, equilibrium, and the Christ consciousness, basically. Because if not, we're just like an artificial intelligence ourselves, really. It needs the power of compassion that Neptune is sextile in Pluto at this moment, and the sextile is quite exact. So this is where it tells us that unconditional love, the Christ consciousness, having a tiny room in our hearts, Leo energy, for the collective, for others, for the well-being of all, for the harmony of all, is a big, big building block in whatever reality we are co-creating together. It's very, very important. And the sextile between Neptune and Pluto is our pure alchemical energy. Neptune in its home sign of Pisces, the ether, the whale, the divine. Pluto in Capricorn, the world stage, the manifestation, the stage of Saturnian energy, basically. And when these two are retrograde, it's all the spotlight is on us, on our inner forces, on our inner world, what we do with our inner world. Where do we direct it? Where do we project it? So at this time, it is really, really, really important. And as I said, it's not just this Neptune, and I think I'm gonna stop sharing right now. It's not just this Pluto trining Uranus, because whenever Pluto trines Uranus, that's like on a large scale a breakthrough energy. The time is here for whatever breakthrough, whatever evolution, whatever forward momentum you need in your life. The time is here. But the sextile with Neptune, that means that our inner worlds, our dreams, our whatever it is that we love, also through our unconscious forces, because love is not always conscious. Sometimes it's very unconscious and we don't even know it. Anyway, it's a different chapter. So it's very, very important. So this is where we truly, truly need to tap into our deepest faith, our deepest wisdom, but also our lucidity to make the right choices and to temper this very rebellious Leo energy and the energy of the heart at the time of this new moon. So thank you everyone for listening. I really hope that this was helpful and useful. If you'd like to support my channel, please like and share and subscribe and thumbs up. And if you'd like to support me, you can donate on the PayPal link in the description of the video. Thank you, everyone. Until next time, bye for now. Oh, and before I don't forget, please do not forget to set an intention for everyone around you, for everything and everyone that you love, Leo heart energy, and for children, because Leo rules the young and children especially. So thank you. Until next time, bye for now.